Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Fairy Hollow. I am ASMR Whispering Fairy, and we have reached 50 fairy family members. So thank you. Tonight I have a little bit of hot chocolate in our cozy reading chair. And my little dog mug. It's a rough life. And it goes onto my coaster that says, "Bring me coffee and tell me I'm pretty." So tonight I thought I would do a TBR or to-be read list of books that I currently have, physical books that I currently have in the house. I have quite a list of other books that I want to read, and newer books also, and then I have some on my Kindle, but these are specifically the ones that I have in the house, which I thought would be nice to go over. So let's get started. One of the books I wanted to read is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. And it was selected by Good Morning America's Read This Book Club, and also a New York Times bestseller. Set in South Carolina in 1964, The Secret Life of Bees tells the story of Lily Owens, whose life has been shaped around the blurred memory of the afternoon her mother was killed. When Lily's fierce-hearted black stand-in mother, Rosaline, insults 3 of the deepest racists in town, Lily decides to spring them both free. They escape to Tiburon, South Carolina, a town that holds the secret to her mother's past, taken in by an eccentric trio of black beekeeping sisters. Lily is introduced to her mesmerizing world of bees and honey and the Black Madonna. This is a remarkable novel about divine female power, a story that women will share and pass on to their daughters for years to come. So I really can't wait to read that one. It was published in 2002, I believe. So I am quite behind, obviously, on my reading list. The next book is actually part of a series. It's called Left Behind, and it's by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. And it's a novel of the Earth's last days. In one cataclysmic moment, millions around the globe disappear. Vehicles suddenly unmanned careen out of control. People are terror-stricken as loved ones vanish before their eyes. In the midst of global chaos, airline captain Rayford Steele must search for his family, for answers, for truth. As devastating as the disappearances have been, the darkest days may lie ahead. So this is... It just looks like a big book. It's really not as long. It's pretty standard for the type of books that I read, but there are 4 in this series. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the first in that series. And the second book in that series is Tribulation Force, Nikolai, and Soul Harvest. It looks like there may be a couple of more that we don't have in the house, but I'm sure we will get them. The next two books I have are biographies, which are not really books that I tend to read. I tend to read a lot of fiction because, my current job is dramatic enough, so I tend to stay away from nonfiction, and I tend to like to read fantasy novels. So if anybody has any good recommendations, please list them in the comments, because I'm always looking for new fantasy books. This is by Brenda Maddox, and it's Rosalind Franklin, The Dark Lady of DNA. So I, in a past life, was a scientist. I have a degree in biochemistry and biophysics. So that was a past life long ago. I no longer do that for a living. This was also published in 2002, and it talks about Rosalind Franklin's life. It says, a meticulous biography, Rosalind Franklin was the unacknowledged heroine of DNA, the Sylvia Plath of molecular biology. A balanced biography of one of the best British scientists of the 20th century, sure to be remembered as one of the books of the year. Coolly trenchant and outstanding study. So, for those of you who don't know, Rosalind Franklin was part of a team that helped discover the existence of DNA through X-ray crystallography. Most people are familiar with Watson and Crick, who are two men who are credited with the discovery of DNA, but this is a woman who kind of behind the scenes did it simultaneously. So I'm really interested in reading this book. And then we have Get Happy, which is the life of Judy Garland by Gerald Clark. And it says she lived at full throttle on stage, screen, and in real life, with highs that made history and lows that finally brought down the curtain at age 47. Judy Garland died over 30 years ago, but no biography has so completely captured her spirit and demons until now. From her tumultuous early years as a child performer to her tragic last days, Gerald Clark reveals the authentic Judy in a biography rich in new detail and unprecedented revelations. Based on hundreds of interviews and drawing on her own unfinished and unpublished autobiography, Get Happy presents the real Judy Garland in all her flawed glory. While the same skill, style, and storytelling flair that made his best-selling Capote a landmark literary biography, Gerald Clark sorts through the secrets and scandals, the legends and the lies, to create a portrait of Judy Garland as candid as it is compassionate. Here are her early years, during which her parents sowed the seeds of heartbreak and self-destruction that would plague her for decades. The golden age of Hollywood brought into sharp focus with cinematic urgency from the hidden private lives of the movie world's biggest stars to the cold-eyed businessmen who controlled the machine, and a parade of brilliant and gifted men, lovers and artists, impresarios and crooks, who helped her reach so many creative pinnacles, yet left her hopeless and alone, after each seemingly inevitable fall. Here then is Judy Garland in all her magic and despair, the woman, the star, the legend in a riveting saga of tragedy, resurrection, and genius. So I realized it's on the back it said that she had been gone for 30 years, and that's obviously we've obviously come quite far past that. This was published in, or copyrighted 2000. So yeah, again, very far behind on my reading. The next book I have is The Zookeepers Wife by Diane Ackerman. In 1939, the Germans had invaded Poland. The keepers of the Warsaw Zoo, Jan and Antonina Zawinski, I think it's Jan and Antonina Zawinski survived the bombardment of the city, only to see the occupiers ruthlessly kill many of their animals. The Nazis then carry off the prized specimens to Berlin for their program to create the purest breeds, much as they saw themselves as the purest human race. Opposed to all the Nazi represents, the Zawinskis risked their lives by hiding Jews in the now empty animal cages, saving as many as 300 people from extermination. Acclaimed best-selling author Diane Ackerman, fascinated both by the Zawinskis' courage and by Antonina's incredible sensitivity to all living beings, tells a moving and dramatic story of the power of empathy and the strength of love. So, this is another true story. I am very interested in reading. And it turned into a film in March 2017. And this book is from 2016. Another book that I have is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. It is Marie-Laure Leblanc lives with her father in Paris near the Museum of Natural History where he works. When she is 12, the Nazis occupy Paris, and father and daughter flee to the walled citadel of Saint-Malo, where Marie-Laure's reclusive great-uncle lives in a tall house by the sea. With them, they carry what might be the museum's most valuable and dangerous jewel. In a mining town in Germany, Werner Pfennig, an orphan, grows up with his younger sister, enchanted by a crude radio they find that brings them news and stories from the places they have never seen or imagined. Werner becomes an expert at building and fixing these cruel new instruments, and is enlisted to use his talent to track down the resistance. Marie-Laure and Werner, from warring countries, both having lost many of the people they loved, come together in Saint-Malo as Doerr illuminates the ways against all odds. People try to be good to one another. 10 years in the writing, All the Light We Cannot See is a magnificent, deeply moving novel from a writer whose sentences never fail to thrill. And this was a New York Times bestseller for more than 2.5 years. And we have The Time Traveler's Wife traditional love story, this is the celebrated tale of Henry de Tamble, a dashing, adventurous librarian who involuntarily travels through time, and Claire Absher, an artist whose life takes a natural, sequential course. Henry and Claire's passionate affair endures across a sea of time and captures them in an impossibly romantic trap that tests the strength of fate and basks in the bonds of love. One of People's top 10 books of the year, and a Today Show book club selection. And this is by Audrey Niffenegger. She's a professor in the MFA program at the Columbia College Chicago Center for Book and Paper Arts. This was her first novel. Her first novel is a national bestseller. I think that's everyone's dream. And the last book I have is one that I know has run the gamut of BookTube. It's called Six of Crows. The ice court has been built to withstand an onslaught of armies, assassins, Grisha, and spies. When Inej says as much to Kaz, he simply replied, "But it hasn't been built to keep us out." His confidence unnerved. "What makes you think we can do this? There will be other teams out there, trained soldiers and spies, people with years of experience." This isn't a job for trained soldiers and spies. It's a job for thugs and thieves. This is also a New York Times bestseller, and it's by Lee Bardugo. 6 Dangerous Outcasts, One Impossible Heist. And I just think it's so cool. The illustration and the way that the book is put together is pretty amazing. And if you look, you can kind of see in the salt lamp like the crow on the actual book stamp. So those are my current physical books that I have in the house. I'm still finishing up a Patricia Cornwell novel called The Last Precinct, and I think my next Michael Crichton book is The Lost World, because I've been alternating the two authors, but I think my brain is zapped and I need to move on to something else. So if you have any really good suggestions, leave those comments below. I can tell you some of the books that I've read and really like are The Night Circus, Caraval, I can make another video on those. I've read all of Caleb Garr's books. Lots of the mystical fairies and witches and that kind of thing, complete fantasy novels. I liked Cinder in that series. Silo, Wool. I think Wool was the first in that book. Silo was another one in that series, but that was a really good one. Dust. So if you have any suggestions, I'm happy to do that. But for now, thank you for coming and visiting me in Fairy Hollow, and I hope to see you soon. I am the ASMR Whispering's Fairy. Fly safe.